Hi, I'm here to, I told Russell that I was going to go Diane Sawyer on him today, so he's promised me that he might cry. But before we begin the master class, he did receive the Peter Ustinov Comedy Award last night, so I thought I'd show you a little bit, and you know already, but just to remind everybody of the career of Russell Peters. So if we could roll that, that'd be great.
Guy and one of the world's most successful comedians.
Well, you might say he is the first truly international stand-up comedian, performing regularly in South Africa, England, India, China, Australia, in addition to North America.
Put your hands together for my man, Russell Peters! I have a theory. If you don't speak another language, you can fake it. The trick is to know what another language sounds like, and then when you do your impression of it, sound angry when you do it. They won't know. They'll be like, oh my God, he's very angry. I don't know. I don't know what dialect that one is, but this man is very angry.
I always catch myself thinking this is a dream. I love doing stand-up, and I love being on the road.
Everything's funny with an Indian accent. I hate to tell you, but your entire family's been killed in an accident.
You said that part of your success is due to YouTube.
Well, I'd been doing stand-up for 15 years when YouTube started. Somebody had taken my special that I did in 2003, chopped it up, and sent it around YouTube. But apparently it struck a chord, and here we are today, talking to Larry King, a man who I've watched my whole life.
What are you, Saudi? I could tell right away. It's the hair, it's not the face, it's the hair. I guess you're just studying in America? Yeah? Or you're just studying America? Very clever, Mr. Peters.
What are you, a comedian?
Yeah. He is a comedian.
Sit down, freak.
Fans.
Juno Awards. It's good to be back hosting for the second year in a row. You ever heard people speak Russian? It's amazing. They just sound like they're talking backwards the whole time.
Please welcome, as our final session at the BANFF Media Festival, Russell Peters.
Hi. All right. It's good enough.
So we're in a room full of creators and people who are here
Gods.
Okay. And so I thought I'd talk about your newest show, The Indian Detective on
Correct.
Crave, just announced last week. It's your first scripted television show. Although
Starring role.
Starring role.
Yes.
Although you have had a couple of development deals that for whatever reason
I've had a few.
Okay.
I think I've had about 6.
So what is it about this development deal that happened versus the others that didn't happen? And what can you share with especially this room about that process and what you've learned?
Well, with the other development deals, I call development deals goldfish. Because you get one, it dies, you get another one. And there's really no love lost in between, you know what I mean? This one actually didn't come as a development deal, it just came as a project about 5 years ago. And, you know, it's gone through its transformations, it's gone through its different writers, its different producers, it's, you know, people have dropped out and dropped in, and here we are now, 5 years later, and Randy Lennox has made this happen for us. And it's the type of enthusiasm that he has that makes me want to do a great job with it.
But I can't imagine that other people wouldn't have been enthusiastic with you, in front of you. You're Russell Peters. You're selling out stadiums.
Yeah, no. It's a weird thing. I think it always somehow gets negated into something else, you know. The people will always say, oh yeah, he sells out stadiums, but it's probably all those people. And they're like, well, what people? And they think the audience just looks like you and I. And no, the audience looks much like this, you know. So without seeing it firsthand, they just kind of wash it off. I think in America, a lot of times they know I'm Canadian, and I think they don't realize that I live there. I live in America. I've been there 10 years. And
Where do they think you live?
they think I still live in Canada.
Okay.
And I'll go to meetings, and I'm like, so how long are you in town for? And I'm like, I don't know, fucking the rest of my life? I'm here. I live here.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. But I want to go back to what you just said maybe 10 seconds ago, which was they assume that your audience is people who look like me and you.
Right.
And so what, are you saying that sometimes they might underestimate your influence because you just have an Indian fan base, you just have an ethnic fan base?
Well, yeah, that's what they think that I just have,
Yeah.
but where they're so very wrong, you know.
Yeah.
I go to places like Denmark and Norway and
Yeah.
Sweden and sell out these arenas, and I'm like, well, you know, there's only so many of those people in these very Scandinavian countries, and so I'm reaching somebody.
No, I agree with
Yeah.
you, and I think.
But so I mean, it's for me, it's always been it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to wait my turn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that when it comes to waiting your turn, I was talking to your brother who you work with last
Mm-hmm.
night, Clayton. Hi, Clayton. And he is also your manager.
Correct.
And your story is so amazing because in 2003, you were still, both of you, living with your parents.
No. We were living together.
But, I mean, you had then.
We moved
was
out
it
in
like-
2000.
Oh, you moved out in 2000?
Yeah, I was 30. My
But
brother was
weren't you
36.
36. Okay, so 30 and 36 still living with mom and dad.
We're Indian, dude. What do you want from us?
You've taken your time. You've taken your time.
No, in the Indian world, why did we leave so early? That's what the real question was. What is their rush? Where are they going? You know. And honestly, I wouldn't have even decided to move out at that time, but my parents all of a sudden got weird with me at 29. I had a girlfriend, and she came over, and she went to my room for a nap, and then I was like, I'll go take a nap too. I wasn't banging. We were just having a nap.
Thanks for clarifying.
And then I come down, and my parents are like, we don't like this. Well, like what? Girls coming over and you going in the bedroom with the door closed. I'm like, I've been doing this since I was 18. And you never said a word. And they were like, well, if you don't like it, you can get out. And I'm like, all right. I'm not going to let my parents cock block me. You know what I mean? So.
Going back to being 30 and 36, in many ways your rise has been meteoric. It hasn't, it has been in 2006, you really reached this, like the sellouts, the stadiums, the consecutive nights. And that's only 10 years.
Yes.
And so when you say you were taking your time and you're waiting for it to come to you, we're also at this point in the entertainment industry having an ongoing conversation about diversity and inclusion, and you happen to be also, after working for so long, the beneficiary of these kinds of discussions. How is that for you now? Are you like, finally, you're coming around to where I've been thinking, or are you not resentful about it at all?
I'm not actually resentful about it. I mean, how can I be resentful of it? You know what I mean? I made such a fantastic living without doing any film or TV. I made more money than people that were doing film and TV. And so there's no way I could even justify being like, oh, God damn it, give me a chance. I'm like, what chance? Even I wouldn't feel sorry for me. And I always put myself in somebody else's shoes. I go, well, if I wouldn't feel sorry for me, why would they feel sorry for me? So I can't be resentful at all. And, the industry is set up in a way that it's set up. And I don't, you'll hear people that are not white will say, oh, the industry is very racist. I don't think the industry is racist. I don't think they sit around and think, how can we keep these people out? They don't realize that the numbers that the Chinese and the Indians have alone is almost half the population of the world. So it's now, because of the world we live in, people are getting more and more aware of a global scale, and the networks are starting to fail miserably. The NBCs, the CBS, the ABCs. Not that I don't want them to fail because I grew up watching them, but they play it too safe now. and people aren't in that safe space anymore. People need to see something a little bit more realistic, and that's why the HBOs and the Netflix and the Showtimes and the Craves, they have these shows that are so edgy that are hilarious. Like Letterkenny's amazing, you know. And I never knew about the show because I live in America and we don't get Crave TV. My brother showed it to me and I was like, this is the best thing I've seen in years. And that's what made me really excited about Crave. I don't know how I went completely off topic and into this,
No, this is great. I think that everybody's
go.
enjoying it.
But that's the world we live in now. You got to think globally. You can't just think, oh, well, if it's not big in America, it's not going to be big somewhere else. Wrong.
You listed off, the fact that you make more money than a lot of your counterparts who are doing TV, that you have achieved all these great things. It's a 4-page, 5-page, 6-page resume.
Right.
And recently, you came off your biggest tour, Almost Famous. I'm going to read off some stats.
Okay.
250 shows, 120 cities, 25 countries. You corrected me last night when I said you made $21 million last year. In fact, you made 25.
That
Not
is
to be
correct.
crass and talk about money, but I mean,
You can. I'm not one of those people who avoids it.
Great.
It's always weird when like people that have a lot of money are like, oh, I don't want to talk about money. I'm like, shut up. Like if you grew up modestly, then you get some money. You're like, I want to tell everybody about it.
Well, that's what I quite like about, this whole thing that you represent, because it's not like just last year you made all that money. You've been making this kind of money for a few years now, and yet you're still hustling 250 shows, 120 cities, 25 countries. You're still hustling with an immigrant work ethic.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, it's true.
I know you don't have to.
I know, but the thing that motivates me is my fear of not working anymore.
I know.
And I'm innately a lazy person. Like, as far as
This doesn't sound lazy.
no, but I mean, I love sleep, and and if you really want to hustle, you can't love sleep. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna hustle my way, and my way seems to be working for me. And, even in LA, it'll be like. So-and-so wants to have a meeting with you, or Warner Brothers or something. And I'm like, all right, and they want to do it at 10 in the morning. Well, that's not going to happen. I'll tell. Well, yeah, but they really want to see you. Well, can they really want to see me at 2:30? Because A, I live in friggin' Malibu, and that's too damn far to get to.
Right.
And B, I'm not waking up before noon for no reason. Just to sit down and talk about, it's almost like talking about your feelings out there. So what do you think about, yeah, I think it's great. Do you want to do something or not? There's a lot of jerking you off out there in Hollywood. And if you're in the business, you know what I'm talking about. You have these meetings and you're like, so Russell, how's it going today? And you're like, we've got so many projects. Well, put me in one. Oh, we'll call you.
Is it weird that people are jerking you off?
That's not the weird part.
But let me finish. Is it weird that people are jerking you off, but that you have always described yourself as an outsider, not a cool kid, not part of like the
in crowd?
The in crowd.
Right.
And do you still feel that way? Like, how are you balancing that?
I mean, to a certain degree, after a while. Here's the problem with what's taken me 10 years to get to this headspace is that. You got to understand, in 2003, when I shot that special that sent me to where I am today, I was broke, like broker than broke. I was in debt when I shot. I was literally broke when I shot the special. They paid me $7,500, which is not a lot of money for a 1-hour special.
Yeah.
And then I literally took the check, signed the back, and paid debts. And I was still in debt, but just $7,500 less debt. And then, you cut to literally a year later, and I'm start making a ton of money out of nowhere. And at first, it was hard for me to accept that because there's a guilt attached to it. I'm like, well, just last year I was broke, and how is this happening? And there's so many more talented people, and there's so many funnier people. Why is this happening for me? I almost feel like I've jumped the line.
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time to understand that you've struck a nerve with people. And even I thought I was a one-hit wonder at that time. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know how I'm going to follow this. And then you just do. You start to like this other side of things a lot more. And you're like, well, I want to maintain this.
Yeah.
And then that's where your brain starts going, well, think, stupid, think. And then
You really took off after your father passed away.
right.
And you have said that he's the most important person in your life, someone who shaped you. You watched your parents go through pretty low times.
Yeah.
And you've said that you feel that he's been your star. That
Yeah.
not conveniently, but he went, and then all of a sudden there was this force behind you, and you've achieved what you've achieved today.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it could have happened to either my mom, my brother, or myself. And it happened to me because if it happened to my mom would have given every penny away to the neighbors for some reason. And if it happened to my brother, nobody would have seen 1 cent. So it happened to me where there's a nice balance of everything happening,
Right.
you know. But yeah, I'm not much of a spiritual person. But I do believe that my father somehow. I feel like after you die, whoever dies and they love you, their body goes away, but they somehow stick around, make sure you don't, walk into doors and stuff. Like, hey, watch out, and literally, like, I'll give you an example. A month after my dad passed away, I was in Mexico. I was working on a cruise ship. Doing stand-up for $2,000 a week, right? And we got to Cozumel, Mexico, and I'd been there once before, and I got off the boat, and even I realized it when I said it. And they had these scooters for rent right there. So I was like, hey, I've been here before. Why don't I rent a scooter? I've never driven or rode a scooter in my life. I don't know what made me think this was a good idea. And I remember when my dad was alive, he was always like, don't ever ride a motorcycle or a scooter. I don't want to ever see you on a motorized two-wheel vehicle. Too dangerous. And I'm like, okay. But I didn't think about that at the time. So I get on the scooter, I start driving down the road, and it's madness. The traffic is dumb, and I don't really know, and I'm, riding this thing, and the speed bumps in Mexico are squares. Like these big,
Yeah.
giant blocks in the middle of the road, and I see it coming, and I'm like, oh shit. So I go to hit the brakes, and the brakes weren't that good. And I hit the bump, and I jumped. I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm taking this thing back. So I see the first turn, and I take the turn, and I'm all wobbly, because I rode a motorcycle once around the block on my friend's motorcycle, and I knew about leaning and stuff, but you cannot do that on a scooter.
Yeah.
So I took the turn, and I'm like, oh shit. And then I take another turn, oh shit. And then I take the last turn before what would take me back to the main road. And I took it for apparently too wide, and it flipped over, and I slid, and I didn't have my helmet on, but I had like a lot of road rash.
Yeah.
And as soon as I the dust settled, I was like, oh shit. I heard my dad in my head going, I told you never ride a two-wheeled vehicle. And then literally is how I knew it was my dad that knocked me off the scooter was I'm frazzled, and then I look up, and I wiped out right in front of a farmacia. And I walked in, and I got cleaned up, and then they called the scooter company, and they came and took all my money. They were like mad at me. I'm like, well, I didn't know how to ride, But that's how I feel like my dad is there protecting me from, because had I tried to take that next turn, I would have been run over by a car for sure.
What do you think he would think to see like a stadium of thousands and thousands of people night after night?
I feel he's seen it.
Paying good money though to
Yes.
see you.
I feel like he's seen it. I feel like he's been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a God guy. I'm not an angel guy. I'm just, it's just how I feel.
So you get famous later than some.
Yeah, I think it happened at the right time.
At the right time for you. But
Yeah.
I remember George Clooney has this great quote that I like about.
From The Facts of Life?
No. But it's good you mentioned that because he didn't get famous on The Facts of Life.
No.
And he was only famous in his 30s like you.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, thank God, because if I was famous any younger, I don't know how I would have been able to deal with it. It would have been too much. I wouldn't have been mature enough. I wouldn't have been able to handle it.
It's true.
How do you think it's affected you? How has fame changed you? Has it?
I wouldn't say it's changed me. I think if, when you hear about people that become an asshole after they get famous, I think they already were before. They just now have a platform to show everybody that they're an asshole.
Okay.
I truly will never, people always ask me when somebody stops me for a picture or an autograph, they're like, oh, that must get annoying. And I'm like, no, you know what would get annoying? When nobody stops me for my picture or an autograph.
Well, Justin Bieber's not giving out autographs anymore.
Well,
This is what I'm telling you.
Exactly.
Like,
If you were an asshole before.
I don't think he had a chance. I think that you know what it's like to walk out of a club and no one's waiting for you. He has no idea.
Yeah, but he also has nobody guiding him. His dad's
who's
not,
guiding you?
His dad's not any brighter than he is.
Where are
They go get matching tattoos. Get out of here, stupid. What are you doing? That's your kid. Act like a father.
Who's your crew to keep you real?
My crew is actually all my friends that I grew up with. My security team, we call them a security team, but really they're just a bunch of crackpot of fat guys I grew up with. You know what I mean? So it's just to give my friends a job and have them, to bring them around the world with me. Hey, you want to go? Let's go to. We're gonna go to Dubai. Let's go. I need an excuse to have you there. Security, done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could take you as security, like she's a martial artist.
Do you have peers in the industry? Do you have, other comics that you are part, like, a little industry, a little, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler?
No,
Do you
see
have
that
some of
again.
that?
I'm not in the loop with the cool kids, with the tastemakers, so to speak. I have friends. Like I'm friends with a lot of the bigger name comics, but I don't know if they look at it as they can't help me or they don't want to help me or do I really need help? Chappelle and I have been friends for about 20 years, and we recently hung out in Vegas after the fights, and he was like, "So what are you doing, man?" And that's a terrible Chappelle impression, but it just sounds like me forcing out a fart. But he was like, he's like, what are you trying to do? And I go, I don't know, I'm trying to get this industry to notice me. He goes, I think I can help.
I could hear him there.
I was getting it there.
Yeah.
I got morning voice still.
It's like
As you may or may not know, it was very
1:30.
early for me, Lainey.
So I want to go back to what you just said. How can I get people to know me more? Because Chris Rock has said about you, this is just 2 years ago, of you, the most famous person nobody's ever heard of.
Right. That's exactly what he said to me when he met me. When he met me, he didn't even know it was me until he said, "Oh, you're Russell Peters?" And I was like, "Yes." It's like, what the hell were you picturing,
Do you want to be known, or do you like the anonymity?
It's a weird thing. I get the anonymity in LA to a certain degree. And when I come home to Canada, I get to feel like a celebrity again. So, but the problem is when I come home, I am so used to people not really paying attention that when people are staring at me here in my head, I'm like, the fuck's that guy looking at? And then I'm like, oh, sorry, hey, how are you?
You tell a really good story in your book about a comedian, Boyd Banks.
Yes.
And it was very early in your career. You had
1990.
and you had, you were working on your jokes, and he grabbed the piece of paper and then stopped you from performing that night, right?
Yeah, I went to go do a spot at the Mississauga Yuck Yucks. And I had, back then, I had just started doing stand-up a year before that, so I'm 19. I'd never had a strong work ethic in anything ever before. Even when I was boxing, my coach would be like, we're gonna go run at 6 in the morning. You're gonna go run at 6 in the morning. I'll see you at the gym at 4 p.m. And then, so I never really had this strong work ethic, but when I started doing stand-up, I started writing everything down. And I had a binder. I was a corny 19-year-old kid, you know what I mean? I had a binder, and I had my jokes written out, literally word for word. Like, if I said I wrote like an idiot, just. So I had them all written out. And I'm in the green room, and he walks in, and he's like, what's that? I go, oh, it's my jokes. I'm all, like, I don't know the industry at all. Nobody in my family's in it. I didn't have anybody to go, hey, Russell, don't do this, don't do that. It was trial by error, everything I did. So he goes, what is those? I go, it's my jokes. You know? I'm like, he goes, can I see it? I go, yeah. Like thinking, hey, we're both comics. Look at my jokes, right? And he looks at it, goes through, goes, this is shit. You're not going on tonight. And he stopped me from going on. And I never forgot that. And he never remembered it.
Convenient.
Conveniently. But I just recently got a text from a friend, literally about a month ago. A text from one of my friends said, hey, remember that guy that did that thing to you earlier in your career? I go, yeah. He goes, I just saw him. He's a butcher in St. Lawrence Market now. And I'm like, all right.
But you have never forgotten it.
I never
Is it
forgot
fuel?
anybody who
Is
did
it
anything
like-
rude to me
'Kay.
or was a dick to me. I never forgot it. Whether it's high school or my professional life.
I like that.
I don't hold-
Immigrants keep grudges is basically how I
Yeah, we
see
do,
it.
and it's not like I will do anything about. I don't resent anybody for it,
No.
but I almost thank them now because it's like if it wasn't for that assholiness, I wouldn't know to not be like that to somebody else.
I ask you about that because I wanted to ask you about your material and where you're drawing it from. You have said that once you release something, it's gone for you, and that you want to keep constantly refreshing your work.
Yes.
Where are you finding that inspiration now? You live in a house in Malibu. You're not hungry anymore.
Clearly. You've seen the video. You've seen me get progressively fat throughout the years.
Probably nobody is throwing your binder out the window anymore and shutting you down.
No, I mean, I stay hungry because I feel there's still so much I want to do. It's not, even like, I almost feel like the award I just received might have been too early. And I'm 27 years into my stand-up career. But, I'll take it, but I feel like I've got so much more I want to prove so many things. And I like being the first at doing things. And, I'm the first Indian comic. I'm the first guy to sell out the Barclays Center. I'm a lot of firsts. I'm the first straight to Netflix deal. I love being the first. And it doesn't matter to me who does it better than me after or whatever. The fact is I was first.
Are you competitive? Who do
Are
you
you
compete
listening to my
with?
answers? Yeah.
Who do you compete with? Who's on your, if it was a swimmer, they have somebody who's made the 100-meter faster. Who's that for you?
I don't actually compete with anybody in my head. It's all about me, and it's all about, I just want to do things that I know other people can't do. I want to go to countries I know other comics can't go to. And there's maybe a couple of people that could possibly go do these countries that I do, and that would be Gabriel Iglesias and maybe Jeff Dunham because he's got puppets. But I go to Saudi Arabia, I go to the Middle East, I go to Europe, I go to Asia, and that these are places not a lot of guys can go. Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle are phenomenal, but I can't see them selling out in Hong Kong. Whereas I can do 18,000 people in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Half your family shows up.
What are you most proud of?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I guess maybe my daughter, I would say, which is pretty a lame answer, I know, but that's my biggest accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. Not so much making a kid, but making her daddy's girl. Just knowing that I'm doing enough, doing the right things to make my daughter not want to see anybody else but me.
What's been your greatest regret?
Greatest regret? I don't know. If we have regrets, then you don't learn, right? You always learn when you lose. You don't learn when you win. So, I mean, I guess my greatest regret would be, maybe not being as physically fit as I should be. And
Really?
then when I try to get back into shape, it's a lot harder than I remember it being,
So you basically are saying that you want to be cut. You want to be Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, I don't want to be
this is
that. I
body.
just don't, I got some body image issues that I worry about. Like when I see a camera and I'm like, oh. So guys, how's everything going today?
And do you feel like you're like you let that vulnerability come out in your relationships, or do you make up for it with your jokes?
That's where the jokes come in. You gotta.
Do you hate what you're seeing in the mirror, Russell Peters?
Sometimes I have a good day where I wake up and go, all right. Then I go to bed and I'm like, what the fuck happened? You were so good this morning.
How do you work on that? Like, what are the things that you do? What are the tools that you access to?
Well, that's the thing. I don't do anything, and that's the problem. I mean,
I'm not saying going to the gym. I'm saying, like, do you see somebody about it?
no. Oh, you mean therapy?
Sure.
Come on, man. We're immigrants. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I'm not going to a therapist. If you can't figure it out yourself, that's your problem. You can figure it out yourself. You just have to be honest. And I'm all about honesty, and that's what I strive for in my stand-up, is being honest. And when you're honest and you're real, nobody can take that from you. But it's when you're being dishonest, that's when you have to cover it up and stuff, you know? And that might be one of the reasons why sometimes I rub the industry the wrong way, but that's because I'm too real. Sometimes they're too soft for it. You know, I say things in meetings and they get offended. You know, like I was at one meeting, I won't say the network.
Why?
Okay, I won't say it was NBC. And I had to deal with them, and you know, I knew 3 of the 4 people in the room from NBC, and the 3 I knew were great. And then this one lady who had just taken over the reins there walked in, and I have a very nice relationship with these other people, and she walks in a little late, and we were all talking nice and everything, and she walks in and goes, sorry I'm late, I was just getting caught up as to who you are. And I'm like, oh, and I was like, oh, and immediately my instinct is, fuck this bitch. So she passes on the show, and I'm like, all right. And then I look at the posters on the wall of their upcoming season, and I go, that's great that you're passing, but do you really think that any of these shows are going to go? Do you really think they're going to be a hit show? I could tell you, not going to be canceled, nobody's going to watch it. And I just started naming off, like, people on their roster. And that person, really? That's who you're banking on? And you know, but that's A, I was annoyed, but B, I was telling them straight up, and all of those shows did get canceled.
Yeah.
And none of them went any further than they should have. But at the time, they were like, I never want to see him again, you know. He's not welcome back here. And then you cut to a couple of years later, I'm on NBC judging Last Comic Standing. But you know, that's the problem. I can't bite my tongue sometimes.
Is that what you like most about yourself, though?
I do like that, because I just don't want to lay down. I don't want to lay down and be like, oh, I'm sorry, man. You know, I'll admit when I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I have no problem telling you I'm wrong. But I also have no problem telling you when you're wrong.
Yes, we know.
You know. And it's not to be abrasive. I don't actually like confrontation at all. It's not something that I look forward to. I try to avoid confrontation as much as possible because I'm not a good arguer. I just get insulting at that point. You know, some people will argue a point, and I'm like, oh, well, your hair's stupid, and then I'll run out, you know. Whatever.
When was the last time you cried?
I actually cry a lot lately. Not like, oh, boo-hoo. Like I'll go for, it's so stupid. All right, I'm letting you guys in, all right? Don't judge me. I drive from LA to Vegas a lot because I have a house in Vegas. And on my drive, it's kind of a thing that I do where I'll play slow songs. Shut up! First of all, I'd leave at like 11 o'clock at night because that's when the road is clear. And then I have this one song by Kelly Price, As We Lay, and I sing it. But if you know that song, she sings the shit out of that song. Like, it's like, ah! And I like it builds. It's like a 5-minute song. So by the time you get to the 4-minute mark, you're wailing, and I'm screaming and singing, and tears are streaming down my face. But I'm not like sad. I'm just so into it. I'm so emotionally into it, you know? And then it makes me go, oh, wow, I really can get into character.
What's your idea of the perfect date?
The perfect date is where you don't really have to think about what you're doing. You just do. You know, it doesn't have to be a great restaurant. It could be a dive bar. It doesn't have to be a movie. It could be Netflix and chill.
We're on Crave now.
Crave and chill. Well, I almost said Netflix and crave. Yeah, it just has, you know, it has to do with the conversation moving and not having those awkward lulls where you're like, so what am I gonna talk about next? You know, it's gotta just flow. Even the silences can be comfortable.
Do you have a hard time meeting people with whom you can be real and find those moments? I imagine that it's harder to get to you now.
No, I do put up a little bit of a front, you know.
And your people probably do, like.
Oh, my people. Let me tell you, so my whole team is like who's that bitch? I don't know what they think. If they think some woman's gonna take me away, like it's the Green Giant or something. Come with me, you know. And then, but it's none of that. They're just very protective. You know what honestly bothers me, that my team is overly protective, because it makes me think that they think I'm dumb. Like they're like, he's too stupid to see this. I'm like, no, I see it. I just play the game as much as I can, you know. If somebody's acting stupid, I'll act stupid with them. If somebody's gonna be intelligent, I'll still be stupid, but I'll, you know, I'm aware of everything going on. And people, you know, when people try to pull things on me, I'm like, I see what you're doing, and you're not even good at it. You know, my daughter tries stuff on me, and I'm like, I stop her and I go, baby, stop that. That's what I do. Don't try guilting me. I am guilting you. But it doesn't work.
Do you mind if we open up the floor to questions from?
Open that floor up.
Okay, I think there are 2 mics that are going around, so if you have any questions for Russell Peters, we have a few minutes. We have 15 minutes to do a Q&A if you guys want to.
And absolutely
Or I can
nobody
keep
wants to
talking.
ask a question. That's fantastic.
No,
way to
just the first
really,
person has to, over here, please, in the blue shirt.
Oh, great, the Indian guy. Surprise, guys. Hey, Rudy.
Are you willing to share what your deal structure is with Crave? I mean, and the reason I'm asking this question is, look, I'm sure many producers have wanted to approach you to do a project with them, et cetera, but given the kind of revenue you're making as a stand-up comic, I mean, I, for example, thought you'd be completely unaffordable for television.
See, I think that's a common misconception with me, and a lot of people do tell me that. They're like, oh, we wanted you, but we couldn't afford you. I'm like, couldn't afford me, but I want to act. And I don't want the shortcut in. I'm willing to work for scale or less. Not that I want that, but I'm not like, oh, that's going to be my moneymaker. How much money do you think I could possibly have? I mean, I don't need that much. You know what I mean? So I do things because I love doing them. I don't do things because I have to do them. But the structure is very good.
Anybody else? Up here? They're just bringing a mic over. Sorry, it's just because we want everybody else to
We
hear
call
the
those
question.
two-fist. Yeah. Because they both had a mic on me yesterday. They're double fisting.
Russell,
Mics, not
tell us more about
German
double
style.
fisting.
Sorry, go ahead.
I guess this might be an old conversation, but I feel like it's an ongoing conversation.
Right.
Women in comedy. Can you shed some light on that? Like, do you have experiences with female comedian friends? Do you think it's a more male-dominated industry? Are the women just as rock stars as anybody else? Do you have an opinion about that?
See, I look at comics as comics. They're kind of genderless to me, whether they're a man or a woman. I don't look at, because when a woman gets up there, she's not doing a different job than we're doing. She's doing the exact same job. And I understand the struggle that she has, a little bit more work in front of her. But as a guy who also had that same struggle, I relate to it on the same level. And you got to really be honest now. Like, the women in comedy are pretty friggin' amazing. They're not funny for women. They're funny for human beings. They're hilarious. You got, Sarah Silverman and Wendy Liebman and any other Jewish person. But they've taken it up to such a level where, I'll be on shows and I'll see who's on. I'm like, I don't want to go on after her. She's going to kill, and it's never, I think the bad rap of women in comedy came from the 70s and 80s when it was all very bland and very, so my boyfriend does this. And then, it was a lot of lesbians who were in the closet pretending to be straight on stage. And now you can be who you are. And it's not like anybody's shocked, like, when a woman comic gets on stage, she says she's a lesbian. You're like, oh, you're not like, oh, you're like, of course, you're like, or if she's straight, that's when you go, oh, But it's a different time now. You can be whoever you are now. You don't have to hide it.
To
It's a
follow
beautiful
up
time.
on that, though, what do you think of, like, the Ghostbusters the
I think it's
female
great.
ghost, and then, but the trailer is like the worst rated trailer in the history of all trailers.
That's just people being haters. Because I saw the trailer and I thought it looked really good. I was like, I would see that. And it had nothing to do. I thought it was great, A, that they brought it back, and B, I was not mad that they cast it as all women. Because I knew that if they'd casted it as all men, I would not have been in it. So at least this way,
There's no way you could be in it.
this way, I was never going to be in it, you know what I mean?
I think we have two questions back here.
All right, so I'm curious,
George?
which of your bits are you most proud of that still cracks you up when you either perform it or think about it?
I'll be honest with you, I actually forget all my old bits. As Lainey said earlier, as soon as I record it, as soon as it goes to air, I delete it from my brain. And people will quote my old jokes to me, and I'm like, oh my God, that's really funny. Who said that? And they're like, you. And I'm like, all right.
Over here.
I was wondering if you've ever considered doing more dramatic roles like previous comedians like Tom Hanks or Jim Carrey, where they've made that transition.
Well,
how do you feel about it?
Well, funny enough, The Indian Detective is a drama show. I'm a Canadian detective who happens to be Indian, and I end up in India for whatever reason. I don't want to give the story away. And I help solve some local crimes over there, and it disrupts the local police who are corrupt. And so for the most part, it's a drama, but I add the comedy when it needs to be added, It's more with the interactions with the Indian police is where the comedy will come in. And otherwise, it's set up pretty much as a drama, but it's not like a straight up, like, hard, gritty, serious, like, I'm going to be a cop. I'm a loosey-goosey kind of cop. Think Moonlighting almost,
Question back there? Is anybody? Oh,
yeah,
over
go
here,
ahead.
sorry.
I thought
Hi,
you
Russell.
wanted to ask. Hey,
How are you doing?
good, how are you?
Good. I have a question for you. I just
I have an
wanted to
answer.
know, in your early years that you were starting out, obviously you didn't kind of foresee maybe everything that came to fruition for you. So what motivated you in the early years of your career to keep going, and what was the moment where you kind of knew you were headed in the right direction and going to achieve success?
Well, when I started in 1989, and when I got into it, I gave myself a goal. I said, I'll give this about 7 years, and if nothing has happened in 7 years, I'll jump out and go and get a job or some sort. And because I didn't have a university, I was not a studious guy. I was not one of those kind of guys. So when I say get a job, I mean I would have been working in a mall at 45 years old still probably, But I gave myself this what I considered a realistic goal, because you got to figure it out. And what motivated me was my father said to me, this isn't the industry for you, son. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, it's for the blacks and the whites and the Jews. And I go, what do you mean? He said, there's black comedians, there's white comedians, there's Jewish comedians. We're not in this business. And I said, that's exactly why I'm going to make it. Because we're not in this business. We're underrepresented. I need to be that guy. And I never set out to be an Indian comic or do all the racial comedy that I did, but it just kind of so happened that way. And I didn't know it was going to strike chords with anybody, and I just wanted to be a comedian. And I wanted to prove it to my dad that I could be a comedian. And I remember in around 1998, I had had 2 specials. I had the CBC one in 95, comics, and then I did one in 97 for CTV. And then in 98, I still didn't have any money. I was still broke. I was still living at home. And I remember saying to my dad, Dad, can I borrow $100? It was like a Monday. And he goes, why? And I go, because I don't have any money. I don't have money till Thursday. That's when I get my check. And he goes, I don't think this comedy thing's working out for you. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you obviously don't have any money. And I go, I know, but I have the money. I just don't have it yet. It's there. I could see it. And he's like, why don't you get a job during the day? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, what, you could still work at night? And I go, well, where am I going to work? Burger King? And he goes, yeah. What's wrong with Burger King? And I'm like, nothing's wrong. People make an honest living at Burger King. I'm like, nothing's wrong with Burger King. But I said, Dad, I've been on TV a few times now, and some people know who I am. And he goes, so don't let your ego get in the way. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'd be working at Burger King. Somebody walks and goes, oh my God, Russell Peters, I love your comedy. Can I get the Whopper combo? You know, like. So that's always been my motivation, to just prove everybody wrong. And whenever people tell me I couldn't or I can't or I won't, not only do I do it, but I do it bigger and better than they thought than I could. You know, and people are like, he's never gonna this, he's never gonna that. And then I go and do it. And I'm like, ha-ha.
I think there is a question up here, too.
Hi, I think that mic's on.
Testing 1, 2. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. Hey.
So,
That got a little seductive, didn't it? Hi. Let me turn on my. Hey, what's happening?
oh my God, you're so funny. You're like one of my favorite people in the world after my son and my mom. Seriously, you're the only person that's made me.
I got trumped by family.
But I hope this question's not too personal. I mean, you did tell us about singing in the car, so hopefully this is okay.
Right.
But, you know, most comedians, like Robin Williams, sometimes they have a darker, not a darker side, but they also are known for being depressed sometimes.
That does exist, not with me, but
Good.
it does
Just wanted
exist
to
with.
check. So you're okay?
I'm fine, yeah. I'm not a depressing kind of guy. I am who I am. What you see right now is basically what you would see any time of the day with me. Lane, you've known me a while.
Yeah. He's not a dark guy. He's really
I mean, physically,
immature.
but you know.
But no. I think we have a question up here.
My favorite jokes are the cultural jokes that you make, and I'm wondering how you, like, what is your process for writing down jokes? When do you think of them? What instances or experiences lead you to write such good cultural jokes?
Well, it's more when I go to all these different countries, and then I hear people talk, and then I hear certain things they say, and it always things that make me laugh, and I'm like, I got to tell people about this, or you hear about words in other people's languages, and you laugh, I don't know if there's any Hungarian people in here. Nope, okay. Like a lot of Hungarian words are hilarious in English. Like the Hungarian word for cotton is vata, and the word for tree is fák. And then I used to say, what if there was a Hungarian guy looking for a cotton tree, and he was like, excuse me, vata fák, and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And that's how it happens.
At the back.
You're fantastic. I love you to bits. You've made me laugh so hard, so thank you for that.
Thanks. It's one of your people, Lainey.
What's that?
Pardon?
That's right. Go ahead.
Is it one of my people?
It's one of your people, yeah.
No, my question for you is, what goes through your mind before you go on stage, before a full house? As the crowds get bigger and the stadiums get bigger, does it become easier for you, or do you get nervous? Do you feel like throwing up before you go on stage? Or are you like ready to rock?
I'm ready to do it, and I already know that they're there. And when the lights go down in the arena, the audience cheers, and you could tell by their energy, that just boosts your energy, and you're like, well, all right, I know they're here for me, I know you're here to laugh, that just makes my job a little easier now. So I walk out far more confidently, but if they're quiet, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a long night, guys, you know?
Do you still talk to your dad before
Absolutely.
every show? Yeah,
I have a little, you ready, you ready? All right, let's do this, and then, and that's what happens.
I like that you are very honest when you don't think that you've had a good show. Like
Absolutely.
Everybody will think it's so funny, like all of us might have been like, that was so great, but you know, like you never lie to yourself about when you're shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of comics out there that get off, that go, how'd you do? I killed. Oh, I killed. You'll never hear me say I killed. Because I know that you can always do better, you know? And you can't stroke yourself. You can, but you can't. Don't do it here. But you got to be honest with yourself. You have to be your own worst critic. And I always, you know, a comedian, we could have 16,000 people in an arena, and I'm focused on the one guy that's not laughing. And in my head, I could have 15,999 people laughing, and that one guy is all I'm focused on in my head. Is like, why isn't this son of a bitch laughing? And then it's usually some reason that, you know, I feel silly for after. You don't notice the hearing aid or something, and you're like, oh. You know.
Back there?
Hi there. You obviously, congrats on everything, incredibly successful and all that. Are you, in terms of what you have...
English of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're great at compliments. No, but in terms of everything you've achieved so far, when you look at others like, you know, Will Ferrell and other big names like that, do you have ambitions to be the multimedia entertainment industry that is Russell Peters, beyond everything you've done now, whether it's, you know, Russell Peters, the SVOD platform, and your own MCN on YouTube, and a real incubator for new talent, all those things? Is that do you want to be an industry and an empire beyond where you are now, or your own production company, all those kind of opportunities?
I mean, maybe eventually, but again, I shy away from extra work, and that seems like extra work to me. I mean, already alone, I don't have enough time for myself. So to add things like that at this point, for me, would not be wise, because it would, you know, you can't really just go trusting anybody, right? And especially in this business, you know, oh, we're going to do this, I could do that, you know, and then you're like, you couldn't do anything, you know. I'm a producer. You haven't even produced a business card, you know what I mean? So maybe, like you mean like how Kevin Hart has Heartbeat Productions, and I think when I get a little further into my acting career, maybe if I get a decent career going, and maybe I will. I won't say no, but it's not something on my radar at the moment.
Sorry to grab again. The reason I ask is that I think you have an opportunity to do that and bypass TV and kind of, you know, do it in a new way in terms of just leveraging digital, because that's where you came from in the first place.
Yeah, but again, I never really had anything to do with that whole digital world. It just kind of happened. To this day, I still don't know how to upload anything onto YouTube. Literally don't know how to.
I think that you have a complicated relationship with it, because on the one hand, that clip went viral, but on the other, you have at times not enjoyed the fact that your material is offered for free in a way that you couldn't control.
I don't think that bothers me anymore.
Yeah.
Because you know, when iTunes and all that stuff started, remember people were like, well, how are you going to get people to buy music when they can get it for free? That was our generational thing. And now I think people are more comfortable. I'm more comfortable buying movies and TV shows and music off iTunes and whatever mediums you use. I'm far more comfortable doing that now. And it just took a little bit of time. So, you know, whatever's out there is out there, you know, and if I add to it, which is impossible because I don't know how, it is. But eventually I need somebody to coach me on how to run that YouTube world. Where's Just Rain? We need him.
I'm sure there's a room full of people here who could help you. I think we have time for 2 more.
Hey, Russell.
Hey, buddy.
Just want to say congrats on everything. What's next for Russell Peters? And also, what are some of the artists and actors and comedians that you'd love to work with in the future?
Really, I'm open to working with anybody. You know what it is? When I meet like celebrities and stuff, I get just as geeked as anybody else would. That's why I see you interviewing like all these celebrities, and I'm like, wow, I don't think I could do that because I'd be geeking out the whole time, you know? And yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I would love to work with Steve Martin. I'd love to work with Eddie Murphy. I'd like to work with all my idols, you know? I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I would love it to happen, you know. I got to, when I did The Jungle Book, I got to work with Gary Shandling, who I was a huge fan of, and we became friends because we were in the, you know, we were in the studio together recording, and we both love boxing, and he, you know, he that day we started play fighting a little bit, and it was really sad for me when he passed away because I was like, great, I just made this new friend who's a great guy, and he was an idol of mine, and then he's gone. And so, you know, I want to get to work with people before they're going, especially in 2016. We're losing people every week. So, can somebody get Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy on the phone for me? Because one of those guys is probably going to go soon. Too soon?
It's terrible.
I know that's terrible.
It's like bad juju.
I know.
Is there one more question over here? Oh, he's okay.
Yell.
Hello.
Oh,
there
don't
we
yell
go.
now.
I love the fact that you work with your brother. I was talking to him last night. What are the highs and lows of that relationship?
Well,
for a good joke.
Well, the good thing about working with my brother is I get to keep the money in the family, and that's great to know that I'm feeding somebody and actually can see, you know, what this is doing for their life. And my brother's really great at what he does for me. Sometimes he can be a little overprotective, as an older brother is, and sometimes, you know, he's not an industry guy before this either. You know, he's only been in this industry now 11 years with me, and so, you know, there's been learning curves, and as there should be, and sometimes I got to teach him how to just play the game, you know, appease people, say what they need to hear, because that's what makes them feel better about themselves. You can't just go telling everybody to go fuck themselves as much as we want to. You just can't, you know what I mean? Because in this business, somebody you had a bad relationship with 10 years ago will resurface 10 years later in a different capacity, and now you got to be like, have all that awkward, you know, distance between you. Like, hey, remember that time you told me to go fuck myself? And you're like, hey. So yeah, I mean, there's that. So
how could you make his life easier?
How could I make my brother's life easier? Probably pay more attention. Like he'll send me emails, and then he'll be like, "Did you get the email?" I'm like, "Yeah." Then why didn't you reply? I figured I was going to talk to you. You know, I was. There's things like that. It's like we're doing the special right now. We shot the special, and he's been cutting it with the director, and he sent me an edit of it about 4 days ago, and I still haven't watched it. But that's more to do with A, I haven't had time, and B, I don't like watching myself. So I'm almost like, well, get it to where you really want it to get to, and then send it to me, because I don't want to have to watch this thing 2 or 3 times. Is that good or bad? I don't know.
I feel
it's probably bad for him.
I feel for Clayton
a
lot. There was somebody who I called out, and then we had another there, and then that'll be our last question.
What would your dad say about, or what is he saying about you winning the Sir Peter Ustinov Comedy Award?
Well, if he was alive, he would be pretty impressed by it because, you know, my dad grew up watching Peter Ustinov movies, and he did movies, right? Yeah. You all looked at me like, and my sadly my memory of Peter Ustinov is him doing the American Express commercials in the 70s. So I'm like Peter Ustinov, I'm like, oh my God, the guy from the American Express commercials. You know, that's like somebody now seeing LL Cool J and be like, oh yeah, the guy that hosts Lip Sync Battle. They're like, no, he was a rapper. Oh, really? You know, it's that, I just compared LL Cool J and Peter Ustinov. I want you to know that.
Brilliant.
Which is a horrible contrast, but whatever, you get the idea.
So he'd be super proud of you.
I think he'd be very proud. I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't be proud. My mom doesn't get it, you know. Like, Mom, I'm going to be in BANFF. Oh, what are you doing? I'm getting an award. That's nice. Are they paying you? No, Mom. Then why are you going? I'm like, come on, man. I'm getting an award. Okay. Like, just nothing. Like, if I said there, I'm coming here and they're giving me a slot machine, she'd be like, oh my God, that's great, you know. Because she loves slot machines, you know.
Did you like your master class?
Did I like my master
Yeah,
class?
because it's over.
Oh, is it over? I
Yeah.
liked it. I don't know if, do you guys like it? I don't know if you like it.
Thank you very much. There's going to be a party over at the Rundle, but on the second floor and the terrace.
Oh, I also want to thank
and thank
John.
you for coming.
I want to thank John Moranis just for having a name that is hilarious. And for looking like Gru from Despicable Me. So.
Thank you very much. Russell Peters, everyone.